Alright guys, back working on the race car. Today, and probably a lot of tomorrow, this isn't going to be just a simple feat. What I'm doing is I am going to rewire this whole car. I am sick of stuff like this, like that, just garbage wiring all over this car. There's a lot that's been chopped, hacked, all kinds of stuff. I've been responsible for a little bit of it, but a lot of it came with the car when I bought it. Show you inside. Like that big, nice, wonderful bundle of wires that's just crimped together in silicone. See, that's something I don't do. Don't blame me for that. Big power wires inside the car and grounds, those are going to the outside. That was me just trying to quickly get the car running when I first moved the batteries to the back. So now is the time to fix all that stuff. I have had this for a couple of years now, and it is finally ready to put that all into there. So we're going to do that. I don't know if you guys have done any wiring. It can be time consuming. It can take up a lot of time. So we're just going to take our time. First thing I'm going to do is cut all the connections I need to cut out. I'm going to rip the whole wiring harness out. Right, those big wires that I showed you going through the car, the whole wiring harness is coming out. With this, we are starting from scratch. All right, this is what comes in there. Hard wiring harness, big, nice little fuse block. Little plate for behind the fuse block. Alternator wiring. Bunch of connections and fuses. Flashers, connectors, all kinds of interesting stuff there for the headlights. Oh wait, don't have any. Instructions. These can be useful when doing this stuff. The all-important sticker, gotta have that. Dielectric grease for putting together your connections to help seal out water and all that kind of stuff. And there we go, that's what's in the painless kit. I'm not sure if we're going to use all this wire. I will run it all, put it where I need to terminate it all. Whatever I'm not using will either get chopped out of the harness or rolled up for future modifications depending on what I'm doing. Another thing I'm going to do is this is not going to go in the factory location. If you guys know anything about race cars and stuff, you don't want it underneath there. I'll show you why. Alright, the factory fuse box is tucked way under here in the dash. Make things nice. You got a seat, hard, rigid plastic, nice thing on there. It doesn't move. It is bolted down solid. The next thing is, you have a roll bar in the way. It's definitely not going to move. So trying to get in there to diagnose anything electrical underneath, that's going to suck. So what we're going to do is, let's sit in the race car here a little bit. Oh. What a lot of people do is they'll put the fuse box over on the passenger side here, but I have a passenger seat because I like taking people for a rip, and it's quite the adrenaline rush for them. I like doing it too. Gives me a little thrill. So what I'm going to do is build a little panel right here. Nice, easy, in the middle. I can run any wires I need to. Back here, straight over the transmission hump, into the back for the fuel pump. Any wires up underneath the dash. Everything can be just nice, short, simple. These, the ignition, all that kind of stuff. Just nice, short, simple, easy. And diagnosing, if anything does ever go wrong, is going to be easy because fuse box is right there. I can just sit in here, unbolt it, flip it off to the side, and we can figure things out. So that's the plan. Wire up all the switches, get everything done. First thing I got to do is rip all this stuff out. So a little bit of planning ahead is a good thing. Stuff like the electric fan here, see where the connections are. We're going to cut them just behind that. Same with the electric fan. have a connection. No, that's not a connection there. Connection's right here. So we're going to cut it right there. Leave as much wire there as we can, enough to put connectors and all that kind of stuff in, so we can make it all, I'm going to make it all quick disconnect, so that if there's a problem or something, the water pump needs to come off, it's a simple click, undo it, take it off. The other thing we're adding in is this. Not just a regular transmission. This is a Turbo 400, and it's got this bad boy right here. If anybody knows what that is a trans brake solenoid. So what that does, got two wires coming off of it, power and a ground. So we're going to ground this one, power to this one through a switch, push button switch. So I push the button, energizes this, pops that in. Now what it is effectively done, you only do this in first gear, it is locked in the reverse band, or the reverse clutches. Then what happens is you mat the gas pedal. First and reverse are locked together. The transmission is completely locked solid. You can stall a converter up as high as you want, or set your rev limiter where you want to stall it at. The light turns to the third amber. You release the button. It releases this. Faster than dropping the clutch. It is now released the reverse, and you are full power, full everything forward. So when you see in a drag strip, car sitting there at the line, you hear the motor, they're on their trans brake with the rev limiter just banging away, and then you hear them let go of the button, and the thing takes off like a freaking rocket, usually front tires in the air. They just release their trans brake, all the power has been directed right to the back tires, and they're moving. So we're putting this in. It's going to help with consistency off the light rather than activating with the feet and doing all that kind of stuff. So in order to put that in and take all the abuse, I also got Coast Powertrain to build me a drive shaft last year. The plan was to put that in last year, and it didn't happen. Halfway through the year, I decided I had made enough changes to the car. I was doing consistent, so we left it alone until this year. And then one of the things you got to do when you put a trans brake in the car is you need a transmission shield of some kind. I went and bought a CSR transmission shield. It is complete carbon fiber, so it's extremely lightweight. It bolts to the top here. It goes around back here. It is a flywheel scatter shield, transmission shield, everything all in one. Tucks nice and tight to the case. Still lets airflow through, so if you got like the other styles, there's a transmission blanket which lays right over tight to the transmission, cinches down, retains a lot of heat in there. The other style is a metal shield, comes up and over, allows the air to pass through so the transmission doesn't retain all the heat. The problem is it bangs into all the sheet metal and stuff inside the transmission tunnel in the car, so you have to rework the transmission sheet tunnel a lot. This one, a little more expensive, tucks nice and close to the body, allows airflow through so it's not retaining all the heat inside there, and also takes the place of the scatter shield for the flex plate. It's a 2-in-1. It works way better. I like it. Recommended me by a fellow racer. CSR Products makes this one. I like the idea, so I bought one. And if that's not enough, I have a whole pile of other stuff to put in yet too. We'll see how far I make it in the next couple of days. Today is the wiring. That's my big thing. Then the transmission's the next. And then I sort out the priorities as needed going from there. All right, I'm going to do some wiring and we'll talk to you guys.
All right, so yesterday doing all the wire stripping, I ended up with holes in the firewall from where people had put big wires and stuff through. I'm going to close all these in. Ended up with a couple little ones. I just cleaned them up and welded them. The bigger ones like this, it would take forever just to fill it with welds, so you make little templates. So what I've got, just a piece of little bit thicker paper, works really well. What I did was I covered it, and I just used my fingers and press down around the edges. You end up with a template that I can see with my eyes, you probably can't see on the phone. I traced it with a black felt, and then I bring it over to the bench and cut it out. I'll show you here, one sec. Alright, I marked relative locations on some of them, just because there's a couple that are similar. So I marked it in black felt, I cut them out with scissors, and I've got all my little templates. And then what I'm doing, piece of sheet metal here, and what I'm using is just a little magnet on the back of a screwdriver. Hold it down, and I can trace it with special pen here onto the sheet metal. Once you got that done, move that one off to the side, I can move on to the next one. So I can cut these all out. Special pencil, it's called Markle. It won't go away with the heat, which is really nice for when I'm cutting these out. So the right hand here, because these two are similar shapes, so I got the mark left and right for which side of the firewall they go on. I can cut them all out, bring them back over to the firewall, weld them in. It's going to make life a lot easier, especially when you get to the bigger one like this where the fuse box used to be. And then that's going to make the firewall 100% hole proof, which is great. No tiger torch type things coming through if anything ever goes wrong and the car light's on fire. Alright, time to move on. Got to get these all cut out and welded, and then we'll continue. Alright, here's another trick I'm going to show you guys. I'm not sure if I've done this one before with you guys. I can see you got all these little tiny pieces now that I got to use to plug holes, and to hold those in place and try and tack them, it's just going to be a miserable pain. So what I got is a piece of welding wire from our torch, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to center it like that, and then I'm going to tack it there with our welder, and then cut it off so I have adequate room. I can pick it up, move it, position it. I'll do one here, and then I'll show you guys. Alright, so there you go. That's what I did. Just one little quick little tack weld on there. It'll hold it in place. Cut the welding wire off. Keep in mind, this is welding wire. This isn't brazing wire or anything else. It's for actually welding this stuff here. So if you use brazing rod or whatever, this probably wouldn't work. But you can use like stupid things like coat hangers or whatever you have around. So what I did is I held the wire with the ground clamp, because grounding anywhere else would be pretty difficult, and then just tack it on there. I got a couple more to do yet, and then we'll put those in. The big one here I won't have to, because I can hold that one and put it in, but these other three are all getting the same treatment. Alright, so we're going on day 3. I only get to be here till about 12:30 today, so I got about 4 hours today. Car's a lot different since you guys last seen it. I painted the whole floor black. I figured when's the next time the car's going to be this empty. So painted the whole floor black, other than my dirty feet have been all over it already. So things have changed. The car looks a lot nicer with that black paint in there. I got the fuse box mounted, and all the bundles of wires headed every which freaking direction right now. So I've terminated some of them. Right now it's going through every circuit basically one by one, because this is not just a simple, okay, hook up your headlights, your tail lights, yada yada yada. This is a complete custom. I'm figuring out what circuits I'm using for what. Most street cars, yeah, this harness is for a street car. I probably would have been better off getting one for a race car, but this is what I had. Bought it a few years ago, figured it would work, and it is so far. So yeah, I'm going through each circuit one by one and figuring out what I'm going to use it for. The reason I'm doing that is your average street car doesn't have things like an electric water pump, trans brake, electric fuel pump. They're slowly starting to on these older cars and stuff. Everybody's slowly going that way. Well, with the electric fuel pump anyways. Electric fan. This fuse block actually does have a fuse for an electric fan and for a spot for you to put a relay in. So I'm going through that. I've stripped a bunch of extra stuff out since I was in here, ducting and the side panels that used to be here, they're gone, which means I created myself a little bit more work
than what was originally intended, because with the side kick panels and the vents gone, I'm now going to have to seal all this up here, because that's where you get your fresh air from. So I got to seal all that up. Not a big deal, but be more time consuming. At this point, I'm just worried about getting the car running, because tomorrow's Monday, the shop opens again tomorrow. I got to be able to get it out at the bay. So I'm going to work on things like getting the fuel pump running, getting the MSD box hooked up, that kind of stuff, the main power wires, the alternator wire. Water pump is extremely important because I don't want to overheat this motor. Stuff like that. So I've also decided, since I have harness room and it's going to look a lot cleaner, I'm taking the MSD box from here, going through where the wiper transmission used to be, wiper motor and transmission, and I'm going to put the MSD box under this panel here. So it'll be a lot cleaner. You can do stuff like that when you're doing your own. Same with everything else, right? You're gonna have some wires back here, obviously, but I'm tucking all the wires as hidden as possible, so that it's just gonna look clean. Hopefully you don't see hardly anything for wires from the front to the sides, a little bit in the back, that's normal. So take a little bit extra time and just make it look clean so I don't have to do this again. So yeah, that's what we're doing. All the systems one by one, clean everything up, move some things around, tuck some things hidden a little more, and I'm going to keep going because I have limited time. So I will show you guys what's going on a little bit later. Alright, so I'm in the trunk of the car now. I'm actually working on day 4, I think, of this, because I've had to have it in and out of the shop for work and stuff. So I've got the battery connected. I've got the car running again finally. Got roughly 32 hours into wiring this car right now. As you can see, I'm trying to get everything nice, clean lines, nice, easy to deal with. I just wired in this solenoid here, which I didn't have last year. This is going to make it a lot nicer. So if a guy has to run over here and hit the kill switch, it's actually going to kill the alternator side as well. So the alternator charge wire will not be hot where it was last year. So this way, every wire in the car, if you hit that kill switch, is dead. So what I've done is I basically took a continuous duty solenoid. This one's rated for 200 amps. It's a little overkill, but it's the way I like it. And then a wire in a hot side to come from the switch. So when you turn the switch on, it energizes this wire, which engages the solenoid and just grounds it out here to the frame. So that allows this to go through to the positive side of the battery, and then that works. So I just tested it with my voltmeter, make sure it all works so you can hear it. Play with the switch, you can hear it click on and off. So that'll make things a lot safer. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I say that word a lot when I'm working on this thing. You want these cars safe. Something goes wrong, you want them safe. So the other option is to run that wire, the alternator wire, to the battery. If you run it to the kill switch, you hit the kill switch and that motor is going to stay running. You have to wire it to the battery side so that when you hit the kill switch, the alternator isn't charging the whole system and running it. So you either, but the problem with running it direct to the battery, so you delete this is one continuous wire. The problem with doing that, when you kill your kill switch, this wire is still hot. So if something were to, say you get in an accident, God forbid, you don't want that to happen, but if you do, and this wire gets hit on something and arcs out, there's no way to shut it off without going back to the battery. That's why I put this in here. It's an automatic kill. So you hit this switch, which is how it's supposed to work. Something happens, you run over, hit the kill switch, the whole car's dead. The only live wire that could be, if something went wrong, would be this one to the solenoid, this one to the back of the kill switch. Everything else is dead in the car. That's the way it's supposed to be. The other option is you can get, I didn't learn this until after I had my switch in here for a while. You can get a kill switch with 4 posts on the back of it. So 2 for the battery, 2 for the alternator, and then that works. So yeah, that would be the other way to do it. This way works good too. Kill switch activated by this solenoid, activated by the control switch. All right, I think I've talked about that to death already. Another thing here, when you're working on electrical and you need to disconnect your battery so you don't have a whole hot system, always make sure, I've seen guys do it, I've seen licensed techs do it wrong. Always take your negative cable off first. That way, you grab your wrench, you're in here, you're swinging around. It could be somewhere tight underneath here, like I got lots of metal around. You can touch anything and nothing's gonna happen. If you take that same wrench and you put it here and touch any other piece of metal, this now is gonna turn red hot, cause tons of sparks. I've seen and heard of people doing this all the time. They go to take the wrong post off, they arc it across. One guy I know welded his wedding band to his finger because he was doing it the wrong way. So do not do that. Take the negative off first. It kills the whole system. You can touch anything on the negative side. Be safe. You don't need a permanent wedding band. With the dash, you can see I've got it installed again. You can see all my wiring and everything through the dash. What I'm going to do is end up blocking those off with plastic. Paint the plastic nice and black or something, just so you don't see all the wiring in behind it. I picked a really cool spot just to keep things clean. My relays, I have them right there. So I don't need this. Relays. Okay, I'm done the wiring section of this build now. It took a long time. I've removed all the fuses that I'm not going to use. I've labeled on my paper what all the fuses are. So now I know exactly what all those are. I might try and find a way to change it on here so I wouldn't have to look it up if I ever had any problems. The only thing I have to do is run this purple wire down underneath the car, which is going to go through the shifter hole here. And once I get the transmission in with the trans brake, that's the wire that's going to activate it, and then it's going to go to a ground, control the solenoid. That's it. 2 more connections, I'm done. So I put my trans brake button off to the side of the shifter here because in my car I don't have electric shifter or anything. So what I'm going to have to do is, it's going to be reverse pattern, so first, second, third. So my button's going to be right here, which, nice comfortable arm spot, looking forward, that's easy enough. Press the button, release when you want to go. I also have a 2-step wire hooked into here, which I've already tested that out. So as soon as I hold this button down, the trans brake and the 2-step come on at the same time, which means this will only rev to whatever I have it set to in the MSD box. I mat my foot to the floor, she'll bang off 35, 4 grand. I've heard you stall generally about 500 below on a trans brake what the converter actually stalls at. So I'll figure out, I'll move the rev limiter way up to probably 6 grand. I'll hit the trans brake, I'll mat the gas and see where the converter stalls at. And then we will play with the launch from there. I can move the 2-step around to change my launch a little bit, flash the converter a little more, a little less if I want to, tighten it up. See how it reacts differently. This will be my first car with a trans brake, so I did have to do some asking around and stuff about how people wired them in. Apparently the big thing is, do not put a relay in there. That will mess with your reaction time. So there we go. Just fuse to the button, to the trans brake, to a ground. No relay. I've relayed everything else that will draw any kind of power. So this relay here, horn relay, goes to my line lock. The other relays I showed you were in the glove box for all the fuel, the water pump, the rad fan, everything that draws high current is relayed to, so it doesn't burn out the switches. Race car is completely wired. I'm happy. And now I get to start moving on to all the other projects. Some maintenance, change some oils, do some stuff. Big list of stuff. But I will be making more videos as that goes on, and we'll keep you guys informed.